Welcome to Becoming Limitless. This is the podcast for entrepreneurs who want to optimize their brain and their body with biohacking. I'm going to teach you how to eliminate brain fog and upgrade your health so you can have more productivity, energy, and growth in your business. I'm your host, Tanessa Shears. Let's jump in. Welcome back to the Becoming Limitless podcast. Today's episode I have for you is all about consistent growth. Now, this might be one of the most important podcast episodes that you listen to. And the reason I really want you to focus on this episode is because consistent growth isn't flashy, it isn't sexy, it isn't exciting, it isn't the radical transformations you see online, but it is what the majority of us experience. And I really want to share a story with you today that just blew my mind open to looking at what kind of growth actually matters in my life. But before we jump in today, I've got to ask, have you downloaded my entrepreneurial playbook called 12 Ways to Biohack Your Energy? It is basically the top 12 biohacks that I do with myself and with my clients that really just get things going. And I mean, if you've been listening to the podcast for very long, you know about Brain FM and how much it helps you focus, or about how I eat whole foods during my workday to keep my brain really sharp, and standing desk. There are so many biohacks in here that are going to make your workday much more focused, energized, and efficient. So head to TanessaShears.com/energy and grab your free guide. It'll send it right to your inbox, and then you can get started on feeling high energy right away. Because I mean, you only need to implement one or two of them to start feeling better. And then the goal is just to consistently implement them and experience growth. You see how I tied that into today's episode, right? So here's what I want to talk about. So your social media feeds, your Instagram, your YouTube, your television shows, your Netflix shows, and thereby your brain are constantly flooded with examples of massive, drastic transformation, massive weight loss, complete overhauls in health status, and they are presented to you as the standard for going to work. Today, I'm shining a spotlight on consistent, slow growth and the attention that I don't think it gets that it should. So right now, if you are feeling rather like underwhelmed with your health progress and finding that you're wishing you could see results faster, like, oh my gosh, I'm just not, losing weight fast enough, or my sleep's not getting better fast enough, or I can't seem to get in the hang of this fast enough, and everything feels like you are in a rush, you can't miss this episode. It is so easy to get caught up with health and biohacking and just wanting to become a superhuman overnight because you have the information. But I want to motivate you and show you how extraordinary you are already doing. This episode is for you always if you feel like your results aren't big enough, fast enough, or noticeable enough. So I'm going to be sharing a story to start off, and I'm going to relate it back to your health and you as an entrepreneur and a biohacker, so don't worry. But this is where I got the idea for this episode, because this wasn't what I had planned for this week, but sometimes when I get lightning struck by an idea and I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys need to hear this, it jumps up in place in the queue, because I really like to intersperse my episodes, and I always like to think like, okay, do I've got a good balance of the sciencey stuff and the mind stuff and guest episodes, but this one, it just had to be done. So one of my business mentors, her name is Stacey Bayman, and she released a podcast on the week that I'm recording this, and it was called Slow and Steady Growth. And I always download and listen to every single podcast episode she puts out because she's really changed my business. But the concept she talked about in this podcast was the idea that everywhere we look around us, exponential growth in business is just expected. I mean, you look at all of the examples that are in the ads that are shown to you and that the coaches put out there to you, they are the people that just exploded their business. And, I always felt so rushed to keep up. Like, I'm in a high-level mastermind right now. And in this coaching group, many of the women have seen huge growth, like more in the last 3 months than their whole last year, or more in the 6 months than their whole last year. And I always felt so rushed to keep up because I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone is getting so much better so fast. And I'm just here plodding along, like getting better, but it's so slow. And I really started to feel like I wasn't a shining star and that I was kind of fading into the background and my growth wasn't good enough. So after listening to this episode from Stacy on her podcast, she was talking about the idea of slow and steady growth being actually the norm. And it is that 1% that you see online that are being showcased for their fast growth. So after I listened to that episode, I decided to go and look for my own growth. So I went back through all of the Excel spreadsheets and, notebooks that I've had since the beginning of time when I opened my business. So I actually opened my business in 2014, and I left a big box gym here in Vancouver and started my very own personal training business. And the big reason was that there was a massive price increase that had happened in the gym at that time to the clients, but it didn't make any sense because they weren't, paying their trainers anymore, and it was just an upcharge to the clients. And I was like, you know what? I can do so much better for these people just working on my own and serving them and charging them at a lower rate and actually getting to, be more involved in their experience. So I opened a personal training company, and within 15 months, I was full. I was at 33 client sessions a week. I was hitting, really busy weeks, and it was great. And it was in my third year of this personal training business that I noticed that my practice was no longer just about fitness. And I needed more one-on-one time with my clients to actually help them get better results, right? So that's when I was like, I'm going to start doing Zoom sessions with them and do some of it online because they need to know about their food. They need to know about their sleep. So in 2017, I had my personal training business, but I started to offer online coaching, which is how you probably know me today, right? Through online coaching in the online coaching world. So I actually moved into weight loss coaching online. That was my very first thing because, I was a personal trainer. It was a natural segue. So I was still seeing clients in person. But by about 2019, after 2 years of doing this, I noticed that most of my clients were entrepreneurs. And that's when I also first heard of biohacking. So that was my big pivot into working with entrepreneurs and biohacking. But I have been doing this online since 2017, sorry. So here is the crazy part. After looking back through all of my notebooks, my first year coaching online, 2017, I made $554 in 1 year. That was all that I made. In year 2, so 2018, I made $10,000 online, $10,000 and change. Year 3, I just cracked $30,000 and it kept going. And you know what's crazy? I was looking at this slow growth and I'm like, oh, that is progressive. So from 2017 to now, I have been consistently growing my online practice as well as still serving my clients in person. And I added up. Here's the crazy thing. I added up what I have made in my business, the revenue since I quit working for that big box gym and opened my business in 2014. So by July 31st of 2021, that's this year, my business has generated slightly over $602,000. I have never calculated that number before. It stunned me. I was not ever looking for that. This year alone, and I continue to look for it, this year alone in the first 7 months, I'm up 42% over last year with my coaching business, and I have made more in the first 7 months of this year than all of last year. And I was like, what the heck? Because my first year was $554 online. And my first year personal training was just a couple clients. And that slow growth is turning into huge things. So I kept looking about, how else have I grown that I have completely disregarded? Well, I went from training 5 days a week in person to 1. I built a growing business and have scaled it more than ever as a mom. I have an 18-month-old right now, and I was like, that's incredible. I am way healthier now than I have ever been. My sleep is better. My stress is minimal. I eat well. I have more impact on my business. I mean, I am serving more clients, and I've been on nearly 40 podcast guest interviews in the last 11 months alone. I've launched this podcast. I grew a community on Instagram and through my email newsletter. I've invested $35,000 in my own growth since I started online. I've made a business plan. I've learned how to evaluate. I have developed the most amazing coaching biohacking program for entrepreneurs, and I know it's the best of the best, and best of all, I'm having fun. This is the type of growth that I was not seeing because all I was looking for were the coaches that went from 10K to 100K to 200K to 800K to millions. And that exponential growth was always what I was holding myself up to. But because that was always the bar, so to speak, I never reached it. So I always felt like I was going too slow and it wasn't good enough. And there was so much pressure on me and my business. And it really sucks the fun out of it when you put pressure on it. And seeing this slow growth, I was like, gosh, what the heck is going to be possible for me in 5 years or 10 years if I've already created that kind of impact? But here's the crazy thing. Despite creating over $600,000 with my business, which still blows my mind, I'm still figuring it out. I still fail and have launches that don't go well. I still do consults and people don't want to work with me. I still get tired sometimes and stay up late watching TV and botch the whole next morning of focus. I still eat pizza and cookies sometimes on the weekend, and I still work outside my boundaries and check my email when I'm with my family sometimes. I still do that. And I have seen success because my growth has been slow and steady and consistent. So let's get back to how the heck this relates to you and biohacking and entrepreneurship. You are being given examples of exponential growth all of the time. And I want you to start seeing where you are holding that up as the bar that you are supposed to jump to. Think about this. Every time you see before and after photos online, especially if they are published by a weight loss coach or company or consultant, their testimonials are always going to be from the best of the best students and the students who had extraordinary results and wanted to showcase their growth. Now, there's nothing wrong with sharing these because while I think it is important to recognize what they are, it is also showing you what you are capable of and what is possible, which is so important because we need to know that we're not setting our goals too small. I love big, audacious goals because I know I'm going to fail at them over and over again, and that's fine. But notice that these images you are looking at and accepting them as the standard of normal, meaning I lost this much in this many weeks and, I was able to completely overhaul my life in 2 weeks and blah, 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 and all of this stuff, it just sets an unrealistic standard. Here's another good example. The show called The Bachelorette. Find a husband in 3 weeks, right? That is the exception. The 99.9% of the rest of the world will meet their partner and fall in love and date and experience that whole process, and it's going to take a heck of a lot longer than 3 weeks. My husband and I, we weren't even married until I think, what were we? We were 3.5 years into our relationship before we got married. So everything is sped up in the public, especially in media. And here's the biggest example that I wanted to give to you. The Biggest Loser. So we know that show that was all about weight loss and they, ate very little food, trained really hard and saw extraordinary results. And they had to get on the scale in front of all of those people every week. And they were judged by how fast they lost weight. And some of them, you could see they lost 100 pounds in 4 months. I get clients who come to me all the time who tell me they want to lose 40 pounds in 3 months or 100 pounds in 6 months, or I want to lose this much by my birthday, or I want to lose this much by my anniversary. And these numbers that they're telling me are think about this. I have been in the fitness industry since 2008. I have taken dozens, if not hundreds of people by now through a weight loss journey. And I can tell you right now, those numbers are achievable if you are willing to go to extremes, but there are so many health consequences with doing it at that pace. And when I say this to them, they get disappointed because that's what they've seen and that's their measurement. And the crazy thing is, they get disappointed that they only lose 2 pounds in a month. Why are we getting disappointed with that? What is the standard? What is this exceptional standard that you are judging your health and your fitness and your longevity and your well-being up against? Are you judging it up against how fast they lost it on The Biggest Loser, or that weight loss company you're following online and their best, brightest stars and their stories? So think about this. After I gave birth to my daughter Hannah, it took me 15 months to lose 15 pounds. That is 1 pound per month. And I'm going to tell you though, when I hit my weight that I was like, no, that's good. My body looks great at this. I'm happy with this. I didn't care how long it took because I was in a place where I did it at a rate where the skills were something that I could easily keep day after day, week after week for the rest of my life. And I knew that weight wasn't going to come back. And by the point I was at that number, it didn't matter to me that it took 15 months because it was just as sweet when I got there, whether it had been 6 months or 15 months, because I never focus on the horizon. And this is the same as me comparing myself to those coaches who go from 30,000 to 100 to 200 to millions in just 3 years. Some people can do it, and it is amazing to know what is possible and what we are capable of, but it's not the rule. And here is what I learned that changed how I see everything forever. And I really hope you can look at your health like this if you feel this is resonating with you. Here's what I've discovered. I am an average person, and I have never been happier to say that. I have been working on my health consistently since 2008 when I became an aqua fitness instructor and stood on the side of the pool deck and taught fitness classes to groups of 40 people in the pool. Nearly 14 years of figuring out my health. And here's the thing. You might be the exception and you might be the person that transforms overnight, but you also might be the average person, and there is nothing wrong with that. The important thing is to look and say, what am I making that mean about myself if we are not keeping pace with the exceptional? Because when I look at my business and creating that type of revenue over 7.5 years, I am so glad that I did that. Where are you discounting your growth? You remember how I said it didn't feel fast enough because of what I was looking at? When I look at that, it feels amazing, and I'm so proud of myself. When I look at my health and how I've progressively fixed my working out, and then my food, and then my sleep, and then my stress, those were all areas of growth. Being consistent in all of those tiny areas, making those teeny tiny shifts, fixing my bedtime, changing what I ate for lunch. Where are you discounting? And why are you in a rush to get there? Why are you trying to take on everything to get these drastic, fast results? If it is to make yourself feel better, it is your job instead to make yourself feel better now. And the biggest thing I want to take away from this is, now that I see that I don't fall into that 1% that has the crazy growth, but I am the average person and I have slow and steady growth, I am so glad I didn't quit. So my call to you is, if you are in that place right now where you're like, oh, it's not going fast enough. I feel like I'm doing all this work and I'm not getting the results that I wanted out of it. Don't quit. If I had quit my business during 2017 online when I got $554 in the whole year, you would not be listening to this podcast. There would have been dozens of lives that would have gone unchanged if I hadn't have pursued my business and grown it. Hundreds, even potentially thousands more people in the future won't get to experience what I have to offer and how I'm going to show up. So Stacey Bayman, the mentor that had this Steady Growth podcast, she ended her podcast with saying that we are extraordinary. Because even if you've only lost 10 pounds, that's extraordinary. Even if you've only worked out once this week, extraordinary. Have you started just a new bedtime routine and you're working on becoming consistent with that, even if it's not perfect and you miss it half the time right now? Extraordinary. If you ate 3 servings of vegetables at lunch, or heck, even 1 when before you used to just grab pizza, extraordinary. Did you do 5 minutes of meditation before bed, or put your phone down so you didn't look at screens 30 minutes before you wanted to go to sleep? Extraordinary. Are you listening to this podcast? Extraordinary. Why? Because most people never even start. Most people dream of being healthy and taking control of their lives and stop being at the mercy to their overworking in their business and their stress and missing out on being present with their families. And they never start. Most people never achieve what you already have. You are extraordinary. Your growth is great, just as it is. You are becoming limitless. It's not about perfection. It's about showing up, realizing what you're capable of, and working towards that. You are seeing the power of consistent growth with yourself. Why is it so important? Because it's like the compound effect, and it does add up over time. You showing up a tiny bit better than you did yesterday is growth. That is what matters. You need to make sure you're recognizing what a great job you are doing and not discounting yourself because you can't do everything you want to be doing. You can't have the perfect food and the sleep and the movement right now. What way can you grow consistently? Because my $554 a year online business is now supporting my family. And we're going to retire my husband within 10 months. 10 months. That little business, that consistent growth. Extraordinary. My attempt at no sugar, no flour in 2017 for 30 days turned into a lifetime of learning about hormones and whole foods and, organic food and filling my body with what I love. Extraordinary. Your decision to be 1% better than yesterday, even if you don't think it feels like enough or you don't feel like it's enough, extraordinary. So here's what I'm going to leave you with. I actually woke up last night in the middle of the night and I had an idea. And it was a challenge that I wanted to do with myself because I was so inspired by my own consistency over 7-8 years. And I woke up and I was like, I'm going to do this with my health because I'm always getting better. And I'm like, I'm going to do a challenge with myself called 30 Days Better. And I'm going to offer you, if you feel like your results aren't getting here fast enough, you do this challenge as well. So the goal is for the next 30 days from when you're listening to this now, can you do just one small thing better than you did the day before or better than you would have done on day one? So a really good example is, and I honestly think this is where it came from, is yesterday. When my daughter woke up from a nap, I was feeling kind of off yesterday. And so I decided to put on a 20-minute yoga class to do with my daughter. And I've never done this before. It was the last thing I wanted to do, but I felt so much better at the end. And I was like, that would have been that one thing better. So I'm challenging you for the next 30 days. Can you do one thing better? Can you put one extra serving of vegetables on your plate? Can you drink one extra glass of water? Can you walk an extra 1,000 steps? Can you go to sleep on time? Can you turn your phone off 15 minutes earlier? Can you wake up after your first alarm? Can you take a break from work to actually focus on your eating? 30 days better. In 30 days from now, if you have done one thing better than you would have done today, think of that consistent growth you are going to have, because that is what creates mind-blowing results with your health. If you want that health status and if you want to be that version of you and that CEO who is healthy and vibrant and focused and alert and present, you need your health. So it doesn't take big changes. It just takes starting with 1% today and being 30 days better. And of course, if you need help with this, that is what I do. I work one-on-one with men and women, entrepreneurs just like you, to help them really develop a protocol that is personalized so that we can get your sleep, your nutrition, your movement, and your stress management completely optimized so that your brain is sharp and clear. This lets you blast through your work. It lets you have more impact, but at the same time, be able to shut down at the end of the day and be present with those you love most, meaning your family or your pets or your friends. And this is what I want from you. So I would love for you to book a completely judgment-free 1-hour consultation call with me, and I'm going to listen and you're going to tell me your story, and I'm going to share exactly how I can help you. And if anything, you'll leave with hope knowing that there is a solution for you. And if you're wanting to take me up on working with it, we can develop a plan that has your life in a completely different place by consistent growth. So the link will be in the description, or you can head to TanessaShears.com/call and book in your spot. I'm excited to see you on that call. And I'm also excited to see you in 30 days better. Reach out to me on Instagram. Let me know you're up for the challenge and that your consistent growth is just as important as all of the exponential growth we are seeing around us. All right, take care. Bye-bye. Ready to begin each day feeling energized and focused? I'd love to work with you one-on-one. In my Becoming Limitless program, you're going to learn how to optimize your brain and body with science and biohacking so you can be highly productive and grow your business faster. Join me over at TanessaShears.com/work with me. I'll see you there.